Yes! Oh, this is the best game ever! Well, what do we have here? Has anyone ever told you that gaming is dead? What's a dweeb like you playing anyway? Well, if you must know, I'm playing the new From Realm game, Elden Combat. This game is so fun. You would even like it. I'll be the judge of that. Thank you very much. Whoa. Okay, this is... Whoa! Gaming sucks today. You know it, I know it, everyone knows it. You log on to YouTube and your homepage is flooded with video essays explaining why gaming is worse than it's ever been. You get on Reddit or TikTok and you're flooded with people lamenting that
gaming just doesn't hit the same way it used to.
Not a day goes by that you don't see someone posting about how much better gaming was when you could just pop in a disc and get played. There was no need to wait for installs, updates, and patches. They'll tell you that everyone knows that gaming is worse than it's ever been, but what if they're wrong? On the contrary, there are many things you could point to that would suggest that gaming is better than ever. We are overwhelmed with good free games. Gaming is more accessible than ever. The indie scene is thriving, and we're flooded with great game releases month after month after month. I mean, just take a look at 2025. Last year was, by all means, one of the best years we've ever seen in the history of video games. We got Expedition 33, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, Death Stranding 2, Donkey Kong Bonanza, Hollow Knight Silksong, Hades 2, Monster Hunter Wilds, and these are just the first games that came to mind. We are not only drowning in high-quality releases each month, but it's also now easier than ever to go back and play games you missed in the past. Emulators, backwards compatibility, retro console re-releases, and a thriving secondhand market ensure that you never run out of games to play. Plus, on top of it all, there are more gamers now than at any other point in history, with some reporting that nearly 3.4 billion people across the globe play games. That's billion with a B. By all means, gaming seems to be stronger than ever, so why are so many gamers disappointed? If you take a step back and look at the bigger picture, it becomes obvious where the blame lies. The internet. The internet has ruined gaming culture. It changed the way we talk about games, prepare for games, and maybe most importantly, how we actually play the games.
So buckle up, buckaroo.
In today's video, we're going to take a look at how the internet has changed gaming for the worse and how you can change the way you interact with the internet to make gaming hit the same way it used to. Spoiler alert, gaming is far from dead. The internet hasn't always been such a bad place for gaming. The history of gaming culture online isn't that different from other corners of the internet. What once began as lighthearted forums where people talked about the things they loved grew into a grotesque monster, unrecognizable from what it once was. A place that used to make gaming better and bring gamers together across the globe now has the opposite effect. The internet now tears down our attention spans, floods us with new content, fosters feelings of FOMO, and then, once everyone's on board, tears those same games apart. It's a sick cycle that preys on the very things that make us human. But hope is not lost, there is a way out. First and foremost, let's talk about attention spans. Oh, sorry, 1 second. There we go, much better. It's no secret that our attention spans are getting worse. This isn't something new. We've been grappling with declining attention spans ever since we put TVs in every home, but it's gotten exponentially worse with the rise of the internet and short-form media. Again, no surprise, everyone and their mom ranted at one point or another about how bad TikTok was before eventually succumbing to the curiosity and downloading the app for themselves. Guilty. But I think you might be shocked just how bad these apps are for you. I'll tell you this much, it's much more than your attention span's at risk. Now, tell me something. Have you felt stupider lately? Since 2020, have you felt as if you just aren't as sharp as you used to be? You're not alone. Tons of people feel that exact same way. And no, long COVID isn't to blame for most people either. It's an overconsumption of short-form content. A recent meta-analysis, which is basically when researchers combine data from multiple studies for one big analysis, published by researchers at both the School of Applied Psychology and the School of Criminology and Criminal Justice at Griffith University, found that short-form content doesn't just wreck our attention spans, but it also destroys our cognitive function and our self-control. In other words, TikTok, Instagram, Reels, they're making us less attentive, more impulsive, and more stupid as time goes on. And I mean, tell me from your own experience that this isn't true. How many times have you found yourself scrolling for minutes, maybe even hours on end, without even realizing that you started scrolling in the first place? I'm guessing more times than most would care to admit. Similarly, how many times have you come out the other side of doom scrolling feeling better than when you started? I bet not too often. Do you think there's any coincidence that as TikTok usage has grown, the sentiment around gaming has decreased? Not a shot, absolutely not. Short-form videos have impacted how we interact with all forms of media, video games included. Audiences now demand content that's faster paced than ever, opting for the utmost engaging content over content that's deep, reflective, or complex. Why do you think there's been such a disconnect between older audiences and younger audiences when it comes to games like Expedition 33, Red Dead Redemption 2, or Kingdom Come Deliverance 2? I mean, these are all critically acclaimed games, but it's not uncommon for younger gamers to lament how boring these games are in comparison to something like a Black Myth Wukong or an Elden Ring. There's nothing wrong with Elden Ring or Black Myth Wukong, but in this attention economy, younger gamers are much more likely to gravitate towards games with non-stop action than they are to gravitate towards games with emotional or narrative depth. It makes sense too. The Entertainment Software Association reported that the average gamer is now 36 years old. Everyone below that age grew up with way more stimulation than anyone older than 36, so it makes sense that the younger gamers tend to gravitate towards higher stimulation games. Even still, young gamers aren't the only ones susceptible to the harm caused by short-form videos. Everyone's attention span is declining, and rapidly. This reduction in our attention span, combined with the other cognitive deterioration caused by short-form videos, results in games generally feeling less stimulated than they ever have. In other words, if you use TikTok regularly, then video games likely don't hit the same way they used to. And that's not just your perception, that's a fact.
I don't want to play with you anymore.
The more hours you spend scrolling on Instagram Reels, the more a game is going to have to do to pull you in. Because of the dopamine overload provided by short-form videos, games today just don't feel as impressive as they used to, even if they are more feature-rich, technically impressive, and visually appealing. With every swipe on your For You page, that bar for engaging content gets higher
and higher and higher until it's nearly out of reach completely.
But it'll all be okay. Thankfully, out of all of the ways the internet is trying to ruin gaming, this is the easiest detriment to fight against. Oh! Like I said before, the issue of declining attention spans is nothing new. It happened with the common adoption of the TV and again with the radio, though to a much lesser degree than is currently happening with short-form videos. Even still, we have a plethora of ways to lengthen our attention spans backed by decades upon decades of research. The first and most obvious way to fight against this algorithm-curated cognitive decline is to simply unplug. That meta-analysis I cited earlier found a direct correlation between time spent scrolling and apparent cognitive issues. By simply spending one less hour per day on TikTok, you're putting yourself in a much better position to enjoy things tomorrow than you're in today. Another method to increase focus would be through mindfulness practices, though admittedly those are much harder than unplugging for a bit. Spending some time in the present moment, practicing meditation, these are great tools at rewiring the brain so that it's easier to stay in the now without boredom ever becoming too much to bear. But one tool, the tool that I think would work best for you and for me, is to play video games. Yeah, you heard me right. Video games can help your cognitive function, and I don't mean just by a bit. Gaming is so good at helping cognitive function that it's even being explored as a potential treatment for dementia. Now, I've already talked about this study before, so if you want a more in-depth analysis, you'll have to watch my other video, Gaming is Good for You actually. It's a bit older, but it's still a good watch. There was a study done on the elderly to see if video games could help fight cognitive decline, such as in dementia and Alzheimer's. Not only did the researchers find that playing Super Mario 64 helped fight cognitive decline, but they found that the participants had better memory for weeks after playing the game. This is because open world games force the player to form new memories so they can learn how to navigate the new space, similar to what would happen if you were to move to a new part of the city. This study left researchers incredibly excited about the prospect of using video games as a tool to fight cognitive decline, but it doesn't stop there. There was this separate study, this time coming from Dr. Beta Charani, that analyzed over 2,000 school-age children. Some were not gamers and others were regular gamers. And the study found that the children who played games for at least 3 hours a day had better impulse control and working memory as compared to kids who didn't play games at all. Mind-blowing. These findings show that video games don't just help old people, but kids too, making it easy to infer that everyone in between could benefit from a little bit of playtime as well. If you consider this, alongside the knowledge that mindfulness and less screen time can help your attention span, then the secret to making gaming amazing again is right there in front of you. Put your phone down, take some deep breaths, and play some Red Dead Redemption 2. Unfortunately for us though, the format of short-form videos is only one of the many ways that the internet is trying to ruin gaming. There's also something to be said about the nature of the content itself and how it impacts the way we interact with our games. Let's look into the actual meat and makeup of video game content, not just on TikTok, but on Twitter, Reddit, and here on YouTube as well. From my perspective, the internet creates this sick cycle where it creates unrealistic hype for a game, drowns you in spoilers the moment a game drops, then begins to tear the game down before moving on to the next game. Very little of it is done in good faith, and it's almost always engineered to get the creator clicks. Which reminds me, if you haven't yet, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm trying to go full time. I want to quit my day job. If you could do that, I'd really appreciate it. So in the conversation about the content of the content, let's talk about unrealistic hype. It starts the moment a game gets announced, when content creators all over the world rush to get their reaction videos out first. People absolutely love reaction videos because they foster a sense of community, drama, and validity. This is largely so effective due to the lack of a central showcase where everyone can celebrate together like E3.
Do you guys not have phones?
Yeah, you guys all have phones, right?
The Game Awards have almost filled the void left by E3, but they're not quite there yet. There was a time not too long ago where a peak reaction video would be the audience's reaction to a game announcement at E3, but with that being a thing of the past, we now have to turn to reaction videos online, not only to gain a sense of community, but also to confirm that we're not crazy or, God forbid, cringe for being excited about something. This yearning for validation can extend through a game's entire pre-release window. Sometimes the hype around a game is positive, sure, but more often than not, the hype around a game is negative, and how the game's received is largely dictated by whichever content creator was quickest and loudest when the game was first announced. It doesn't matter if the opinion is substantiated, but if someone has an early opinion that gets millions of views, it then tells hundreds of creators to echo the same sentiment so they can get their share of that sweet, sweet internet traffic. And unless a game is able to drop a trailer that completely defies the zeitgeist, that early public opinion is likely to snowball all the way until the game launches, really picking up momentum in the 2 weeks leading up to a game's release. Fable's a great example of a game that was able to save itself from this misfortune. Leading up to the last gameplay deep dive, public sentiment around it was pretty damn negative. But what they showed off was so ambitious and reminiscent of Fable of old that people are not only on board with the game now, but they're eagerly excited to play it. Sometimes though, that's not even enough. Oftentimes, it doesn't matter if the final product is good or even just decent. If the internet has damned it to be a bad game, then a bad game it will remain regardless of whether or not there are any good parts within it. I'm thinking about Star Wars Outlaws personally. I'm still frustrated at that game's reception. So, going into a game's release, it's practically already decided whether or not a game is good. If it's a bad game, according to content creators, then you're best to just leave it alone or risk getting roasted for liking it. Because content creators race to be first and thrive off of negativity, the end result could very well be that you're left ignoring games that you'd otherwise love. That alone is proof enough that the internet is making gaming worse, but what if those same creators deemed a game good? What then?
Hollow Knight for the very first time to prepare for Silksong.
Here are some essential tips for beginners in GTA Online.
You're lost on Elden Ring, aren't you? Let the one-toe jack help you.
CSGO 2 is finally here, and if you are new to the game,
if a game is good, then may God help you if you can't afford it on release day, because your FYP will be flooded with 10 things to do first, watch this before playing, or my personal favorite, what the ending really means videos. Now, this content isn't bad in a vacuum. Some of those videos I just showed actually came from friends of mine, and I wouldn't be shocked if I made a video or two like this myself. But the issue is how we're inundated with them. On TikTok, Shorts, Reels, you don't get the chance to say yes or no before being flooded with spoilers. Even on YouTube proper, where the content is shielded behind thumbnails, it doesn't stop the seeds from being planted. Maybe I'm playing the game wrong. Maybe I don't know how to play the game at all. Maybe I'm not doing the things I need to get a good ending. Which, quick side rant, I am so incredibly sick of the idea of a good ending. In truth, the best ending is the one that comes as a consequence of your decisions. The decisions that you made, not someone else. Going into decision points with the sole intention of getting an ending that someone else deemed the good ending undermines all of what makes an RPG fun in the first place. Like, think about Baldur's Gate 3 for a second. That entire game is about choice and consequence, watching how one little decision you made in Act 1 can affect change in Act 2 and even in Act 3. Each playthrough is almost a testament to your state of mind at the time, varying either wildly from save to save or changing in only the most minute, nuanced of ways. To play this game following a guide towards one specific ending would be to rob it of the very thing that makes it special in the first place. I'm getting way off topic though. What I'm saying is that for the entire time leading up to a game's release, the internet creates this feeling of community. We think this game will be good, or we think this game will be slop, so on and so forth. Then, when a game drops, creators leverage that FOMO that they spent months fostering to flood you with tips and tricks so that you feel obligated to use them if you don't want that community to leave you behind. Long gone are the days of experimenting, taking your time, and playing games the way that makes sense to you. Now it's a race to the finish, a race to find the most powerful build to use, the best items to grab, the best things to do in the best order, and it's all right there in front of you all of the time. It's just too much. There was a day not too long ago where if you got stuck in a game or you wanted to find some cheat codes, you had to pray that information was on GameFAQs.com, because if it wasn't, you were shit out of luck. Maybe you'd get lucky and your mom would take you to EB Games so you could buy the game companion. Or maybe you'd get even luckier and the Scholastic Book Fair would come to town and you could pick up one of those sick cheat code books. Gamers, they've always relied on the occasional walkthrough or tip, but there used to be a degree of separation there. You used to have to seek out that information when you needed it. You were never overwhelmed with this information at practically the exact same moment you bought your game the way you are today. What this does is it trains us to no longer just look for help when we're struggling, but instead look for efficiency so that we can finish a game well and fast. We're optimizing all of the fun out of gaming. The internet makes it so that it's no longer about enjoying the time you have with the game, but rather how good you are at optimizing the time you have with it. If the internet's doing its job well at all, and it's pretty damn famous for being great at its job, then about 2 weeks following a game's launch, one of two things will happen. Either A, the script will flip on a game and people will begin to bash it who are previously hyping it up, or vice versa, or B, what happens way more frequently, people stop talking about the game altogether. Because while some creators were busy giving out tips and tricks, other creators were in the midst of the hype train for another game. So 2 weeks after Game A's release, it's now time for Game B to shine. It's non-stop, it's overwhelming, it's impossible to keep up, and it's working exactly as designed. Now, I'm no dummy, or at least I'm not that big of a dummy, because I do see the irony here. A content creator, a short-form content creator nonetheless, lamenting the horrors of short-form media, it just feels a bit hypocritical, doesn't it? Well, it is. By participating in the zeitgeist, I am contributing to all of the negativity that I've talked about so far, especially with TikTok. Maybe I'm naive, or maybe it's something else entirely, but there's something within me that feels that all of this, all of the internet, could be making gaming better rather than worse, but the only way to make that happen is to jump in and play the game a bit. Do I have the power to change the gaming space as a whole? I mean, absolutely not. Who am I kidding? But maybe through some thoughtful video making, I can create a corner of the internet where gaming is made better rather than worse, where people take their time and enjoy games they're playing rather than race to get the newest, shiniest game. And that's something I think we all can do. As a matter of fact, it's that idea that's the solution to the content cycle that's consumed us over the years. I think that we need to be less reactive and more proactive. I think we need to spend more time sharing our ideas and engaging in meaningful conversation, and less time responding to trends and hot takes. To enjoy games again while remaining on the internet, you have to spend more time talking to people and less time trying to defend your opinion against bots. The only way to counter content fed by an algorithm intended to make you mindless is to fight back with thoughtful, mindful conversation. But if I'm being honest, this is all starting to feel way too much like a TED Talk. So to highlight how awesome games are right now and to drive home the fact that gaming is not dead, here's a rapid fire rundown of 3 games that I cannot wait to play. Coming out a little over 1 week from now, on March 19th, is Crimson Desert. I gotta admit, guys, I am so high on this game. Everything about it looks sick, but I want to talk about the people, the combat, and the gameplay. First off, the people. The map is huge and varied, and so are the people within it. Differing parts of the map are in differing stages technologically, meaning that while one faction might rely on dragons for airborne transportation, another might rely on steampunk man-made mechs. Not only do groups of people have different cultures, but the individuals within those cultures look wildly different as well. Some of my favorite clips from the trailers are when they show a player walking through one of the game's many towns, and you can see a huge discrepancy in size between citizens. I think that adds to the fantasy vibe so much, and it's a small detail, but it's one that gets me crazy excited to see what other small details there are. Then there's the combat, which looks truly insane. There's an incomprehensible number of moves and combos you can learn, and you can even RKO a dude. Red Dead Redemption 2 made me realize that I wanted more games to lean into complex control schemes in the name of more mechanics, so I'm super excited to see how fun it is to learn all of the moves in Crimson Desert. Finally, it's all the non-combat gameplay that really surprises me. The game has Zelda-like sky isles with puzzles that don't look too easy. Not only that, but there are fishing, cooking, and horse racing minigames. Then, to top it all off, you have your own hideout that feels like a mess between Assassin's Creed Shadows, Animal Crossing, and Stardew Valley. I mean, there's even a farming mechanic. I'm gonna put out a video on whether or not Crimson Desert lived up to my expectations, and you can expect that sometime around March 28th. I'll keep you guys posted. Then, coming out on May 19th is 007 First Light. Now, I wasn't sure what to expect when I heard that IOI was going to be taking a stab at James Bond after Hitman. I know they're fairly similar, but I wasn't sure how IOI's style of black box gameplay would lend itself to the world's most charismatic spy. Thankfully, my fears appear to have been completely misplaced, because everything shown thus far would indicate that IOI is absolutely cooking. Not only have they perfectly tailored their signature style to the more bombastic nature of 2007, 007 I mean, but they appear to be telling a really original James Bond story at the same time. To be honest though, both of these things could suck as far as I'm concerned. I'm gonna play the game no matter what, because that hand-to-hand combat looks fire! This is by far my favorite combat style in a game, and we just don't see it enough outside of fighters. Sleeping Dog, Sifu, Mad Max, Batman Arkham, these are the only games I can think of that have similarly hard-hitting hand-to-hand combat, so I am super excited to get another entry in that category with 007 First Light. Speaking of Batman Arkham and hard-hitting hand-to-hand combat, I also cannot wait for LEGO Batman: The Legacy of the Dark Knight, which is set to come out on May 29th. This game seems to be combining all of what makes Batman great from every media he's ever been depicted in, and they're doing it all within a marriage between Batman Arkham and LEGO Batman. Especially now that Warner Brothers is getting sold to Paramount, this might be the last Arkham game we ever see, so you bet Batman's ass that I'm going to squeeze every ounce of enjoyment out of this game that I possibly can. There are so many games to look forward to, and what I listed isn't even the tip of the iceberg. You still have Forza Horizon 6, Fable, Beast of Reincarnation, Metal Gear Solid 4 on the PS5 finally, Phantom Blade Zero, Ace Combat 8, Control Resonant, Clockwork Revolution, one of my most anticipated games, The Duskbloods, Marvel 1943, The Rise of Hydra, Mudang, Two Hearts, love to see someone is keeping stealth alive outside of Ubisoft, Mortal Shell 2, Onimusha Way of the Sword, Tomb Raider, Legacy of Atlantis. Oh yeah, and Grand Theft Auto 6. The landscape of gaming, it's changing every day. Companies buy companies, leadership changes for the better or for the worse, game prices go up and they go down, but one thing stays the same. With each passing day, we get more and more great games to play and to look forward to. Sure, you can look at Phil Spencer's retirement or the rise of AI in gaming and think that the future of gaming is going to be nothing but AI-generated corporate slop, and partially it will be. But another truth is that, with each passing day, there are dozens and dozens of new amazing humans working to create games that they've always wanted to play. Even if AI causes a RAM shortage that forces us to remain on this console generation for another 10 years, we'd still be overwhelmed with new releases that are likely better optimized than ever out of sheer necessity. We may have to put up with some bullshit along the way, maybe even more bullshit than we're used to, but gaming is only going to get better as time passes. It's really easy to be made to feel like gaming is cooked, like it just can't exist the same way it used to, like it will never be fun again, but you have to remember that you're being made to feel that way. If we take a step back, get a better idea of the wider landscape of gaming, and lean back in with greater intention, then we'll find that not only is gaming not dead, but gaming is more alive than ever. How can we make the internet a better place for gaming? Let me know down in the comments. Let's talk about it. And just remember, content like mine wouldn't be possible without viewers like you. Thank you.